Hello and happy, cool, cold Saturday, February in St. Louis. I am here with amazing Professor Rodrigo Vaghi. It was really just a blessing and an honor to come and learn from you. Today, I learned a nugget that just I think is going to change everything.
I hope so.
The giving yourself some slack on the two grip on the lapel before you reach up underneath. My gosh, like that was really a game changer. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get my hand under there, and it was because I was pulling so hard on that lapel there was no room.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. That was that was a
welcome.
big game changer. So Professor Vaghi, you told me something earlier as we were talking about the start to your jiu-jitsu career. You were actually doing judo before jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
So can you kind of just give the audience a little bit of a history lesson on how you came into jiu-jitsu and what you were doing before that and who became your coach?
Yeah. So I started really young. Judo is very traditional in Brazil, and people do sometimes. I don't know more. I think jiu-jitsu really took that place in, a lot from the other martial arts. But it was very common to do after school or as a sport, swimming, like other sports. And I started really early. I had amazing teachers. Brazil being always very gifted because we got a lot of immigrants, especially from Japan, previous Second War or after Second War. So we had a really exposure to the best that we could have. And I think I was around 13 to 14, and I had a friend of mine who started doing jiu-jitsu. And he showed me a couple moves, and I always was like, what is that? And I went to my dad to ask him, hey, do you know anybody in jiu-jitsu? And my dad's like, yeah, we have the house in the mountains. And I grew up, and Master Helio have a house close to us. So I knew Master Helio since I was a little kid, even with the difference of age that he was older than my dad. And my dad used to be at the beach. My dad played volleyball competitive even for the Brazilian team. But they used to hang out with the people from jiu-jitsu. It was a Rickson Gracie that was in Copacabana. And my dad said, yeah, you want to go? I will take you. And he took me, at the time, was under a rowing stadium. I think was a favor having the school on that place. And I had the first experience. I remember walking in, and my dad introduced to Marcelo. And I met one of good friends of mine that day. They rowed with me, and I was so impressed with everything. And from that day on, I fell in love, and start transitioning slowly, a little less judo, even if I love judo, and more towards jiu-jitsu. And I was lucky enough at the time to not only be exposed to Master Helio, who's still teaching a little bit, and then Rickson was the head of all the classes, and that's how I started with.
Yeah, so a super huge opportunity for you, and you lived in the right time and in the right
Yes.
place, and since then you have some really amazing affiliates around the country now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your black belts who now are running academies and what that means to see them having success with that?
Oh, I love it. I love to see. I think that you have the part that is your accomplishments as a competitor, and the part that is great. But really having or seeing guys who are students and get to that level, or they graduate and get that black belt, and then they can now spread the jiu-jitsu and stay. I love to see that and see how we create kind of a community where have the friendship, and it's something that I really try to preserve. That's not only the competitive side for the guys who want to do that, but really the friendship and the community spirit. That's, for me, is probably the most important part.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see, and I get to be in academies 2 or 3 times a month all over the country, and so it's just been amazing to see how jiu-jitsu is growing. So I can't even imagine for you,
Yes.
like starting in Brazil and then coming to the States, and then the last 5 to 10 years watching what's happening. What do you think has been the biggest change that you've noticed that you like in the jiu-jitsu world?
Well, I think that is great to see the evolution, because I think the more people you have, there's so many people thinking about so many different solutions and positions. So the evolution, especially in competitive side, it's so much it's so fast, but I think it's enjoyable. Like when you don't shut yourself out of learning, I think it gets pretty exciting because I'm very traditional. I grew up with a school that jiu-jitsu needs to be effective, especially for the self-defense. That's how the Rickson always teach. But I kind of get thrilled to see all these new positions because I have guys who compete in Pan Ams and Worlds and younger. So I feel excited about that side, but I feel excited about the part where the guys who come in and they want to learn self-defense and they want to just do it that. They have a routine, they have work, they have family. So I think having both sides for me is a really exciting part.
Yeah, my partner today, he's been training with you for 10 years, and he said, oh, I've never seen that before. So again, getting the opportunity to train with someone like you who's, so experienced, you've been around for so long, you got to receive your training from, the who's who and the individuals who really created this opportunity for all of us to learn jiu-jitsu now is pretty special. So thank you so much. So if someone wants to come train with you, where can they come, and where's your school located?
So my school is located in Ellisville in St. Louis. That's where I have my main school. And fortunately, I have an amazing, that's close. My brother have other schools in St. Louis. Now, one St. Charles MMA. That's probably the best coach of MMA for sure in the Midwest. Now we put so many guys in UFC, and he has guys in Bellator, guys LFA champions, and Mike Rogers is incredible. We have a school in Arnold, we have a school down to ours downtown. They're the affiliates, and we have main schools in Omaha, Nebraska. We have 3 affiliates there, and we have 5 in Wisconsin that spread into Oshkosh or Appleton and things like that. And I'm being so blessed to be around. I have guys up north towards Minnesota and Winona with all that. So I'm being very blessed to have some amazing, amazing people around me.
Awesome. Well, just your heart for wanting to help teach and your heart for wanting to connect with people and meet people where they are is really amazing. And I think that's something that's fantastic about jiu-jitsu is that the student base has been able to grow because there's some schools that are still like, well, unless you want to be a high-level competitor, we're not going to work for you. And that's okay. Like each person has to know what they can offer. But at the same time, being able to create an environment to bring people in who are 40 or 50 who are never going to be those competitors at that level is something that's pretty special, and it's just been awesome to get to learn more about you and spend time with you. We're going to change gears a little bit. So how we met was one of your students who was actually one of our clients, got stem cell therapy from us, and then was talking with you about it. And you had actually done stem cells previously, but you did a different kind. You did stem cells.
I did from the bone marrow, and then at the time it was the only thing I knew that going out of the country was so expensive, and I heard before and all of that, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it now. I always believe in that side of the stem cell, and always peptides. I always looking for now options out of the complete surgery, like we talk now. Unless you're really in the situation that you need to have it, and that's what it is, because you have a full rupture. But I always believe on that. I always try to read about it. And then I was fortunate enough to have now Kirby introduced me to you, and he knew it, how many problems I had it through the years with jiu-jitsu. It's like, man, you got to go talk with Gavin. You got to hear about it. And then it was like, oh, okay, And then he told me his results, and I was like, okay, he's a guy who is telling me honestly his results. He doesn't have nothing to gain on me, a benefit on that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to listen. And then we met, and that was all history. I was really excited to now I was coming from an injury, and very frustrating because when you get older, it's like seems like they hunt you down. And you have one thing. And then oh, okay, recover from the knee. Oh, okay, now it's the shoulder. Now it's, And when you're younger, you have those, but you don't even focus on them because the body heals so fast now. And it's like, oh, okay, put a tape on it and go for it. That's how it used to be in old times. Like nobody here wants to hear you crying. And then after I met you, I was great to do the procedure. Now I went to Appleton and did the procedure, and without telling anyone, I keep a track for what was the injury, the tear, because I did an ultrasound, and then
And you had a tear in your shoulder.
yes, I had a tear on my shoulder, and I had it my knees, as much as my knee have good cartilage on it. I don't know for what, my knees were consistently producing, the bursa sac was producing a lot of water. And I was having like problems to staying on my knee and things because the pressure on my joints. And then I went there, did the procedure, and I just keep a track without saying anything. Because I'm like that. I like to feel an end, like,
Right.
oh, you're going to do all this stuff. Like, okay, I'll keep it to myself, and the results will prove for themselves.
Right.
Right? And I went back to do the ultrasound, and the tear was pretty much completely disappeared. It's like, even like kind of a suspicious, like,
Yeah.
whoa, your body's doing a great job. And I didn't say it a lot, just keep it to myself. Like, oh, your tear pretty much like disappeared. You have nothing. You used to have like a really severe, to the point that I was feeling stabbing in it. And my knees that I was at the time jogging all the time just completely stopped producing those waters that maybe was from some level of inflammation or impact. And I just gradually keep doing my activities, pacing myself and do it. And I feel that my shoulder feels 100%
Awesome.
from what it was.
Yeah, and it's really amazing because there's so much information and so many people still saying that, well, stem cell therapy in the United States is fake. Right, you have to go out of country to get it, and all of these. Can you imagine if I told you today that the only place you could get good jiu-jitsu was you had to go to Brazil in 2025?
Yes, and what is far from the truth.
Yeah, it's not true at all anymore. So what would you tell people if people are contemplating, thinking about doing stem cells with New Hope, or what would you tell them based off of not only your experiences but now your experiences with seeing your students have their lives changed? What would you say?
I think I can say for my own experience. For my own experience was incredible. Everything that I experienced. And I would have liked it that I even would keep a track of more things that are damaging my body. Like, we talk about that, my discs and things like that. Because I would have loved to have a reference because I can feel the difference. But would it be cool to have like a head on the shoulder, that reference of what it was. I had the pictures. I had the picture here 3 months later, and I had the picture 6 months now. That's when we did in July.
Yeah.
And it's proof.
Yeah.
It's not that I need to, like, you can't lie to ultrasound.
Right.
It's like, you go there and you do it, and you have the results. It's pretty much, and that's how we met.
Right.
I knew it with Kirby, and I knew it from other people that even from other guys at Jiu-Jitsu that I talk with. They're like, no, and I did, and it was like, it gave me a chance. Like, I would have never more go back to compete.
Right.
It gave me a chance to do it, and I'm on that. I only will go for what I believe and what is proven results. And that's where I'm at.
Awesome.
So,
Well, we're super excited. We're grateful that you're trusting us with your health and wellness.
Yes.
I mean, it's how you not only live your passion, but you're helping so many other people, and it's your business. And I think that's something that's so exciting too, just from a business perspective as well. Is I was meeting so many professors who were contemplating selling their school because they couldn't teach anymore. They couldn't
Yes.
even get on the mats, and to know that we've been able to see so many guys have that not be true, and see them living their best lives. And one of the exciting things is watching the students be so excited to see their coaches fully training again, competing again, and being on the mats, and that's what's happening for a lot of our guys.
Yeah, and I think that association with the jiu-jitsu, the partnership with having that perspective. I think even for the guys who are starting up, because I have students 78 years old.
Yeah.
And who come and do for fun and things like that. But with that gives them, I'm like, okay, sure, you're going to need to have great partners around you and things like that. But sometimes in the level of mobility, joint and things like that, having the access to the stem cell now with New Hope, that will be the that little bridge there were like, okay, I can do this.
Right.
I can do it now. I have many here that were here today. They're like, okay. You
Right.
can see in the bright, they all look at me inside of the locker room, but like, well, you doing this, I'm doing that too. It's like, because they can feel it and they see it in me by my activities and how my level of intensity with my coach, and everything, how ramp up so much
Right.
in all the ways. And they're like, okay, that is no, he's just saying, it's proof.
Yeah.
It's proof.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. How important do you think today's, we call them our stem cell, jiu-jitsu seminars, how helpful do you think that was for your students today?
I think it was very helpful because I think like what you mentioned, I think everybody have their own conclusion, or we don't know what kind of level of information they have, and they don't have idea of even for me was educating today to see in how many other levels. Because we think about as being an athlete, my think is about fixing the injury here, fixing the injury on my back. But I had no idea about things towards the brain and things like that. Where it's like, wow, there's so much more around that keeps me excited about, even like what you said, about your dad, your mom, and other possibilities. That has nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, has nothing to do with being an athlete, but has to do with keeping those parts of your body active and healthy and functional. So that I learned a lot, and I think a lot of guys were pretty surprised.
Yeah.
Because how many came to you with talking about their wives or talking about other people, has nothing to do with even with them, that is have autoimmune disease or this and that. Because I think now the information that we got is really more pinpoint and is not as good as was presented today.
Right,
So.
and that really is our goal. Is we just want to be able to educate people about the truth, about what it is, what it isn't, and so people can have a realistic expectation. And unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation from misinformed people about regenerative therapy and stem cells. And so, would you, what would be your advice to other, academy owners or school owners, and maybe who are contemplating partnering with New Hope for themselves and for their students? What would you say?
Well, I would say that give a chance to have access to that information. Because I think was one of the mistakes that a lot of people think they know, and they think that whatever information or whatever research they did is the right thing, or it is that. And it's what I said. I read a lot about it, and even a lot of research out of the country, in Europe and things like that. And I was totally blown away for a lot of little details and other conditions and other things that you exposed today. So I think I would have said that is reach to you guys and get the information, get exposure, hear about it, hear about other people who really have that experience, and then, give themselves a chance, because you're not going to regret.
Thank you so much. So what would be, if we were going to leave the audience today with something about jiu-jitsu, what would be your biggest piece of advice of being able to help someone stay in jiu-jitsu for the long term? What would be your you've had such a successful career, you've mentored so many other students and black belts and people who are now running affiliations. What would you tell someone about their jiu-jitsu career to keep them in it for the long term?
I think that the biggest key is finding what is your goal and surround yourself by people who are not fighting for their ego. Because one of the problems, and I think we all went through that transition when you're younger, you go so much. I learned so much through the years. Even Rickson used to tell me how important it was for me. Saulo, who's an amazing friend of mine, now grew together through jiu-jitsu, was my partner of many, so accomplished, my gosh. But like so many of the guys that I admire used to always tell me, hey, Rodrigo, you gotta focus into having this divide where people can understand they can still develop, they can still challenge themselves, but they don't need to train in the same intensity of a guy who's going to a world's adult.
Right.
Né? And the guy who is a world's adult needs to understand that if he's gonna take the time to train with a guy, he can train in a different pace with a different aspect approaching. Né? Maybe, okay, I tell that's my youngest, like you train with a guy who his life is so much more complex. He has kids, you work all day. It's like train, sweep him, get the back, show him where is the imbalance. So you don't need to go there and train like you're in a world championship. Né? But you can still give the guy a great workout. You can move, you can pass, you can, hey man, where's your underhook? And that's what it is. And when you specific training for, say, we separate groups, and that group will be, hey, these guys are training to worlds, they training for Pan Ams, and that's gonna be the intensity. But I think the biggest part where you see through the years is when you're surrounded by good people who make you feel comfortable and confident that you don't feel like your ego needs to be proving every day. Right. Nah? That it's like, oh, if I tap to this guy, I'm going to be humiliated because he's going to be telling everybody he tapped me. Nah?
Right.
It's like, no, it's okay. It's like he got you and it's okay. You don't need to prove a point. You're not here to prove how much more you are from anyone.
Right.
Nah? And you're here to conquer yourself. You're here to feel that you're in an environment like we talked before, and life sometimes get tight. I tell the guys all the time, it's like, man, come in. And you work all day, maybe you come in, do some technique, sit around, do something with the guys, or maybe do 2 light rows and go home.
Right.
It's like, it's different than the guys who are pros and training consistently, but Jiu-Jitsu have a space for everybody. The one thing that I think is important is always dedication.
Yeah.
I think in everything in life, so people like to say all the time, oh, Jiu-Jitsu is for everybody. Nothing in life is for everybody.
Right.
Dedication is not something that we achieve is in anything. If you tell the guy who plays soccer, when the guy's drilling through the cones, you're there sitting, looking your phone, and it's like, no, you're going to need, dedication is not optional.
Right.
But everything else it is. Yeah. My goals are different than yours and things like that. But that's what I think today, the Jiu-Jitsu, the biggest difference. Surround yourself by good people. People who care about you, care not about themselves to be hurting you. They are not there. Sure, in sport, you could be open to something happen, but when you're surrounded by people who's trying to prove a point all the time, that is a recipe for disaster. I
agree with that. Well, Professor, thank you so much for having us out. Thank you for letting us have access to your students. Thank you for trusting us.
Thank you for definitely. Trust myself definitely with you guys.
Yeah, I can't wait and when we do the next therapy, maybe 3-4 months from now, I can't wait for you to see the next level.
I can't wait and bringing the word there to Europe now. Keep spreading the
That's right.
The new hope, the message. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Professor.
Appreciate it, buddy.
By getting therapy through New Hope, I was able to overcome a lot of that issues that I had with my back and my knees.
I won the Euros in January just because of the recovery that was provided by New Hope.
New Hope that changed my life with this therapy.
You're not your diagnosis.
Seeing New Hope.
Ah.